for school open. Principal Tim Corkery said in a letter to parents. The campus was immediately swept by police at the request of Superintendent Margaret Murata, and while nothing was found, an increased police presence in and around the school will be seen throughout the day. Corkery said all threats to school safety are taken very seriously, and the police department continues to investigate the threat. Nettle is the second Haverhill school to receive a threat in as many days. On Monday, students at Whittier Regional Vocational Technical High School were dismissed at lunchtime after a threatening message was found inside a boys' bathroom. That threat was also deemed not credible, according to Haverhill Police and Whittier Tech Superintendent Maureen Lynch. Haverhill's Police Department, in partnership with Haverhill Public School Superintendent Margaret Murata, are planning a panel discussion on the hidden dangers associated with teen vape usage later this month. According to Chief Alan Denaro, his team of school resource officers and narcotics division was inspired to act after an alarming increase in the presence of THC oils and related paraphernalia in city schools. The forum is going to be held on March 27th and is going to be open to parents with children of any age.
We've identified a significant need for an educational component for parents in the city of Haverhill due to the fact that this is reaching epidemic proportion with youth, not only in Haverhill but across the country. I mean, we're getting kids in elementary school up through high school, so we're getting 10-year-olds to 18-year-olds that are involved with this, so we felt very compelled that we should run a session.
Whittier Regional Vocational Technical High School Resource Officer Jamie Landry is among those offering presentations at the session to be held at Haverhill High School on the 27th. Landry hopes to educate parents about things that may be happening under their own roof.
Kids nowadays that are using these things are like guinea pigs. They can watch YouTube and then they're basically putting them into one of these, and then they're creating a vapor that they can inhale.
And following this month's forum, the police department plans to schedule professional development and training for school administrators in an effort to get out in front of the new epidemic.
It's just like the heroin epidemic kind of snuck up on us. This is also sneaking up on us.
As the debate over installation of Hexagon Energy solar panels in Haverhill continues, Mayor James Fiorentini is using concerns raised by city councilors and neighbors as a teachable moment to tighten up policies and practices. In the wake of a February 26 public hearing where neighbors from Christine Lane spoke in opposition to the proposed 20-year lease Virginia-based Hexagon hopes to enter into with the city, Fiorentini told WHAV that the meeting helped him put things into perspective. Largely reserving judgment on the panels, Fiorentini hopes the city's inspectional services team will use a heavy hand in requiring owners to bring the blighted property up to code.
The last thing in the world we want is for have our city taken over by solar panels. I tell you the one thing that I do know about this parcel, and that is this, that we've got to take stronger action against the owners to get them to clean it up. I don't know if it's the right place for solar panels, but it's absolutely the right place for strict enforcement.
In WHAV Sports, an off night tonight for the Bruins and the Celtics. Celtics are back in action tomorrow night when they host the Sacramento Kings, and the Bruins will be back on the ice tomorrow night, taking on the Winnipeg Jets in Winnipeg. Red Sox have an exhibition game today against the Minnesota Twins at JetBlue Park. And the New England Revolution continue to prepare for their next match. That'll be Sunday night in Montreal against the Impact. On the high school scene in tournament basketball action, girls basketball Division II. The Pentucket Sachems are in the state semifinals. They are the North Section champions. They are going to be taking on Pembroke, the South Sectional champions, tonight at 5:30. That's going to be at the Garden in Boston. And in girls hockey, the Methuen-Tewksbury squad will be playing Austin Prep for the State Division I Championship, although no date or time has been announced. Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source. And there's always more at WHAV.net, and that's where you can sign up for the free newsletter. From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, this is Win Damon.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Giles Gibson. The parents of an American student who died after being detained in North Korea have slammed Pyongyang after US President Donald Trump praised Kim Jong-un. Pakistan has released an Indian pilot captured after his plane was shot down over Pakistan-administered Kashmir. And President Trump is calling on lawmakers to seize the manuscript of his former lawyer Michael Cohen, saying it will show Cohen lied to Congress.
WAV weather.
Now your WAV weather forecast for Haverhill in the Merrimack Valley. Little sleet or some freezing rain and plain rain as we go through around 1 a.m., then becoming just partly cloudy, low 29 degrees. Pretty calm wind throughout your Thursday, mainly sunny skies with high pressure in place, high 50, a low of 40 Thursday night, partly cloudy with some patchy fog, and a few widely scattered showers, and warming up to 62 on Friday. I'm WHAV meteorologist Brian Ivy. Your next WAV weather in 30 minutes.
97.9 WHAV. .9 FM WHAV.
Catch the wave, WHAV, Merrimack Valley.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents Good Sports with Paul Ryan and Tommy Morgan. Good Sports is sponsored in part by Haverhill attorney Gerard LaFlamme. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
Hello, welcome to Good Sports at 97.9 WHAV. It is Dave Morrison, and right across from me is Tommy Morgan. You just got to turn your mic on right there and put it in program like you normally would.
Are we?
And you can you hear me now?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, we're good. We're good.
That's all you got to do. You just got to put it in program.
That's it. Okay. Oh, well, I had it in audition first.
No.
And
Oh my God. We're doing a tutorial on the air, folks. I love it.
I took it out of audition and put it in program though, so we're good.
Yeah, no. You put your mics in program, and this is a little bit of what goes on behind the scenes, folks. So enjoy.
All right. Well, listen, I'm more worried about the box blowing up back here. Okay, so. Anyways,
well, you guys are on fire tonight, so
it is Wednesday night. It is Good Sports. I'm Tommy Morgan. As always, Dave Morrison joins us. Thanks for getting us through the intro there. And tonight,
think nothing of it.
Yeah, tonight we are welcoming back a good friend of mine, Christian Procaccino, making his second appearance here on the show. How's it going, Christian?
It's good to be back. How you doing, Tom?
We're doing
Dave,
well.
How you
You're
doing?
looking good. I love it. People can't see me, but I know they can see you, Christian. They've got the Patagonia. It looks like an ugly sweater party / just a really cool sweater vest.
It is. He is like me last week with the hat on. The True Life hat.
You guys have been styling so far. Me, I just wear anything secondhand.
That's right. So. Listen, I think we'll just jump right into it. It has been quite the busy week of NFL free agency, and the funny part is it actually didn't even officially start until 4 o'clock this afternoon. But people have been flying off the board pretty much throughout the entire week, and I think what everybody is most intrigued about is that Odell Beckham trade from the New York Giants to the Cleveland Browns. And Proc, I kind of just want to get your initial thoughts on this trade.
I thought I was seeing something at first. I thought it was a joke when I got that notification, but it's startling. It truly is. It was one of those things that I don't think I'll forget where I was when I got the news. Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what you can say. It just seems like such a dumb trade. A first and a third rounder and a below average safety. It just, for Odell Beckham, who is potentially the best receiver in the game, a generational type receiver, sort of like the Antonio Brown trade. It just didn't seem like they got enough back for the type of player they were giving away. And it just makes you wonder what the Giants are doing, because you draft Saquon Barkley and you think, all right, they're trying to build up that offense, and then they go ahead and they trade away arguably the number one piece of that offense. I know Saquon is a beast and he's going to have a great future, but you got to think that offense is kind of built around Odell and relies on Odell. I'm curious to see what they'll look like next year with Sterling Shepard as their number one target. It seems like teams are going to stack the box against Saquon now and just sell out for the run. So you really got to wonder what the Giants are up to and what Dave Gettleman's thinking for that rebuild. Maybe they're tanking for Trevor Lawrence in a few years.
So listen, this is where I'm at with this whole situation because I was team the Giants had to get a quarterback last year. You know, that last year's quarterback class was one of the best we've had in quite some time. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Rosen. You know, I know Rosen obviously didn't have a good year, but, you know, a name that was up there with the elites of that class. You know, you have an aging Eli Manning who is obviously done. I can't imagine why he would ever want to come back or why he is coming back, why the Giants haven't cut him yet. But as far as I'm concerned, you know, the rebuild for the Giants, you know, it needed to happen last year, and right now they're caught a year too late in their rebuild process. And right now, you're right, they don't really have a direction of where they're going. You know, when you compare this trade to the Antonio Brown trade, you know, the Giants made out like bandits. They got a first-round pick in return. They got a starting safety in return, and then they got another pick in the third round. I know it's the last pick of the third round, but, you know, it's a pick at this point. And for AB, you know, the Steelers got, you know, a third-round pick, which, you know, in my opinion, in the NFL draft, if you got anything in the third round, you know, third round or higher, I think you're in pretty good shape. You can find good players, you know, really through the first to the third round. And, you know, there are always guys that, you know, end up standing out coming out of the fourth round. You know, Trey Flowers is one that sticks out to me. But, you know, if the Giants did what the Giants should have done last year and took a quarterback, Odell would still be on this team. Absolutely. Because you don't draft a quarterback and then go ahead and trade away the best option that he has. You know, and for me, it's like, I understand that Saquon Barkley is probably a generational type talent as well, but you just don't have the quarterback that's able to feed those horses.
Or the offensive line, really.
Oh, right. I mean, you know, when you look through all of the moves that the Giants have made, you know, over the course of the last 2 or 3 years, you know, it just didn't set up for this team to be able to stick around together. And, you know, I know that, you know, for Giants fans, Odell was you know, it was probably the best player that they've ever had on that team since, you know, Lawrence Taylor. And certainly going to be a Hall of Famer. And, you know, I know he puts up the crazy numbers. But, you know, when I think about it, and, you know, from, you know, an outsider looking in anyways, you know, I know Odell has the numbers and Odell has, you know, the catch and he has all that. But he hasn't really equated to wins for that team. They had one good year. They went 11-5, and when you look back on that year, that was completely led by the defense.
And if you remember the playoff game and the infamous boat picture, I mean, Odell was really pretty much a non-factor in that one playoff game. And
you know, and that leads me to my next point. It's like, you know, they have an 11-5 year. You know, I know he has a great year and he's on pace to break all these records. Then him and his boys, they go on a boat in Miami, and he goes out and lays an egg in Green Bay, and they're out in the division or the wild card round. And, you know, for me, it's like, you know, all those things are great. The catches, the yards, the this, the that, all those things are great if they're equating to wins. But let's call, you know, a spade here. The Giants were going to suck this year anyways.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And, you know, right now, even if they did keep Odell, they really don't seem to have any form of direction in what they want to do for a rebuild anyways. You know, it sounds like that they were going to take Dwayne Haskins at 6. Now you're hearing that they're out on Dwayne Haskins and they want to draft the kid from Duke. You know, and I know that only comes up with the 17th pick in the first round, but you know, I just don't think that they have any sort of direction to begin with.
They have no quarterback. The way they drove Eli out of the Meadowlands and Odell, this is not the 2007 New York Jets that defeated the New England Patriots. And I think people down there in New York, New Jersey, who are just beside themselves right now, and I have a few family members who probably are just not liking the news. You know, this is not the team from 10 years ago.
No,
it really isn't. It's like not. Get over it.
And you know, when you look back on that, you know, those teams that beat the Patriots, Right, what were they able to do? They were able to get after the quarterback with the front four, and they played very good defense. And the defense that they were going to roll out there this year, oh my God. I mean, talk about, one of the – it was lining up to be one of the worst in the in NFL history. I mean, they let go Landon Collins, traded away Olivier Vernon. I mean, they literally going to have nobody.
Yeah, and I was going to say, even going back to last year, too, they let go of Damon Harrison. They let go of Eli Apple. It's like you look at the Giants, you have no idea what they're trying to do, where they're trying to go. Like you mentioned, they just let Landon Collins go for nothing, basically, literally nothing. You trade away Odell. There's no sense of direction in that program. It seems like they have no idea what they're doing anymore. They're just trying to hold on for dear life and get to the draft and see what happens there.
Yeah, I have more faith in the New York Football Jets in terms of their rebuilding than the Giants.
Absolutely.
You can make the argument that the Jets are going to start to become a force in the AFC East.
The Jets did
maybe
the right
early
thing. They didn't have a quarterback, and they went and got a quarterback. And now,
went and got
now
Sam
you
Darnold.
can put pieces around Darnold. They just got Le'Veon Bell, in free agency. And, that's a whole other subject we can get to. But we are just getting our toes dipped into the water here of NFL free agency, talking Odell.
Carry it over to
Cleveland,
the next break.
And, we'll carry this over to the next break when we get back. So we'll take all your phone calls on the free agency as well. The number is 978-374-1900, and we look forward to your calls right after this.
Good Sports will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. Good Sports is sponsored in part by attorney Gerard Laflamme of Haverhill.
97.9 FM WHAV.
That we deliberate and achieve with wisdom and understanding, recognizing the rights of all of our citizens with full regard for the dignity and justice of the individual.
Each week, WHAV News brings you live gavel-to-gavel coverage of the Haverhill City Council. Listen to 97.9 WHAV FM each Tuesday night at 7 when the City Council is in session from the Theodore A. Pelosi Jr. City Council Chambers in City Hall. Presented as a public service from 97.9 WHAV FM.
Community Spotlight.
Graduating seniors in the Haverhill area are eligible to apply for the Greater Haverhill Art Association's Robert Kablowski Memorial Scholarship, awarded to a student pursuing a career in the arts who lives in the school districts of Haverhill, Methuen, North Andover, Masconomet, Pentucket, and Timberlane. Deadline for applications is April 15th, with the award of at least $750 presented to the chosen senior at a student art exhibit at Buttonwoods in May. Applications and submission guidelines are online at haverhillartassociation.org. Submit your own nonprofit events and announcements at least 3 weeks in advance. For best results, use the online form under the Contact tab at WHAV.net. In the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, I'm Eric Scott.
Catch the wave. WHAV.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents Good Sports with Paul Ryan and Tommy Morgan. Good Sports is sponsored in part by Haverhill attorney Gerard Laflamme. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
We're back here, another evening of Good Sports. I'm Tommy Morgan. Dave Morrison, as always, on the other side of the glass. And tonight, accompanied again by a friend of mine, Christian Procaccino, making his second appearance here with us on the show. We jumped right into the NFL free agency talk, and the more notable moves, or the notable move, the Odell Beckham Jr. trade from the Giants to the Cleveland Browns. And I think you and I, Proc, we have a little bit of a different stance on this. I don't see, on the surface, I can understand why Giants fans are upset about it, obviously. But when you start peeling back the onion a little bit and taking a look into the trade, does it really hurt the team? You know what I mean? In the short term, it definitely doesn't hurt the team because they were going to be bad anyways. I mean, what were they going to be, a 5-win team, 6-win team, if that?
Yeah, there wasn't going to be much improvement from last year, which was, what, a 5-win, like you said, a 5-win season. So, I mean, I wasn't expecting this team to make the playoffs or anything like that, but...
Right, and, I mean, I know in the long term right now, the Giants are in complete shambles. Like, they just... for whatever reason, they're having an extremely difficult time, cutting bait with Eli Manning, which should have been done last year, before the start of last year. They should have went out. They should have gotten a quarterback at number 2 overall, whoever that may have been. It should have been Sam Darnold, in my opinion. Just think he's a kid that has true talent to be a really good, if not great, NFL quarterback. And they went for the running back, and they picked up, obviously a very, very talented player. He's going to be good for a very long time. But in this day's NFL, like, that position is just so replaceable. Right?
Exactly.
You can go and get anybody, and they can put up, yards and production and touchdowns. Take James Conner, for example. Fills in for Le'Veon Bell and has a Pro Bowl year.
C.J. Anderson with the Rams this year.
Right. I mean, it's like, you go up and down the list, and it's like, is the running back position important? Sure. You know what I mean? It's another element of the game that the defense has to defend. But there's so many guys in the league doing it. It's like, did you really need to go and spend your second-round pick on a running back? And I'll stand by that. And right now it's kind of coming to fruition because, now you don't have a quarterback. And because of that, your star wide receiver was – calling the organization out, basically called Eli Manning out over the offseason when he did his interview with Lil Wayne on ESPN.
Oh.
You know what I mean? It's like, I think the writing was on the wall for Odell. All the on-field incidents. And
I was just going to bring that up because a lot of people in New York just got sick and tired of his shtick, especially the on-field incidents. And everything he put out on Twitter. I mean, we could go down the entire gamut, but yeah.
I mean, for me, as much as I love to give Odell a hard time, and most of that comes from the fact that a friend of mine is, a big Giants fan and like to give him a hard time and whatnot. But, the guy is a competitor and the guy wants to win. It's unfortunate that his play wasn't translating to wins for the Giants, but, as much of a, part of the problem he was, the ownership and the front office and all that is obviously much more at fault. They couldn't get him a guy. They could get him the football, and he made sure that people knew that, which ultimately I think drove, the Mauers and Gettleman to say, okay, enough is enough, and sent him out the door.
For me, though, my whole issue with this is, like you said, they had that chance last year at number 2 to go grab a guy like Sam Darnold. You choose Saquon Barkley instead, which, I mean, you can look at so many different ways. Not a bad pick or anything, but like you said, it starts with a quarterback. And how many running backs do you see single-handedly winning you games and taking over games and taking you deep into the playoffs? You really need that quarterback. And I thought last year at number 2 was a perfect opportunity for them to go out and get a Sam Darnold or a Josh Rosen or someone like that, someone that you can let play for a year with not really many expectations. I mean, no one expected the Giants to be a playoff team last year or go to the Super Bowl or anything like that. So you bring a guy in like Sam Darnold, a young guy, you let him grow for a year, and then you get the pieces around him. Then you go and get a running back this year. You get a running back later in the draft last year. But they made that gamble. They went and got Saquon. I mean, obviously they're going to have him for a while, and you can hopefully try and get a quarterback to put with him now, but at the same time, you also just lost Odell Beckham because of it, and he was going to be a big part of your future and probably was a big plan for them in the future, and now they don't have that, and now they're right back to the drawing board. They got to find that number 1 receiver, or they stick with Sterling Shepard and think he's that guy, so you don't really there's a lot of uncertainty for the Giants.
Right, and to that point, right, if you go out and you get the quarterback last year, right, you already have the stud, wide receiver that he can throw to, and then like you said, once you've solidified who the future of your franchise is going to be at the quarterback position, it makes your life that much easier to go start and get pieces around them. I know that when and this goes back to the year that the Giants had that 11-5 year and went to the playoffs, right? They, when you think back to the drafts that they've had, right? They drafted Odell, they've drafted Saquon, but think back to who the Giants have drafted, over the course of the last 4 or 5 years, right? They really haven't drafted anybody that's either A, on the team or that's done anything. In the year they went to the playoffs, they went and splurged in free agency and got guys like Snacks Harrison, Olivier Vernon, right? That was a Janoris Jenkins, and that was a really, really good defense. But you can only patch those holes for so long in free agency. And I think now, like when you take a step back and you look at this trade, right? Obviously, you've completely let your fan base that the organization is going to go into a rebuilding mode. You start that by you get Jabril Peppers obviously is no Landon Collins, but he's somebody that starts in the NFL at the safety position, right? So you got a young kid that you can coach up, get into your system, and hopefully he works out to be a good player for you. I think it's too early to tell on him. He's only been in the league 3 years, so I think the jury's still out on him. I know everybody's be like, oh, it's Jabril Peppers, but he's a starting safety in the NFL. Plays the exact same position you just lost Landon Collins at. So and then
some special team depth as well.
Exactly, and then I know you're going to wag the finger at the 17th overall pick, but for me, like the Patriots had 2 picks in the first round last year, outside both outside of the top 20, and I couldn't have been more ecstatic about it. Right, and I know we went and got. I really wanted to see them use it on defensive guys, but we ended up getting Sony Michel, who was a huge piece to the offense this year,
especially in the playoffs.
And then Isaiah Wynn, who's going to be stepping in and filling in at the left now the starting left tackle, or so we think here. So I mean, there's tons of value in first round picks in the NFL. It's not the NBA, right? Where if you don't have a pick out inside the top 3. Right, it's basically shooting fish in a barrel at that point, and that's not the case in the NFL. Right, if you do your homework and you actually get guys that you're high on and that you think can play, and that guys that you can coach up, you can turn a lot of those top third round guys all the way up through the first round. You can turn them into really solid NFL players, and I just go back and I compare it to that Antonio Brown trade. I mean, the Steelers got fleeced.
Yeah, if you think about it, they lost Le'Veon Bell, Antonio Brown. In return, they got a 3rd and a 5th round draft pick.
And then
that's it.
And then I don't even know. Do they get a compensatory pick for losing Bell because he didn't sign the franchise tag? Like, I don't even know. You might, but you're right. Like, you have a lot of people talk about Antonio Brown being the best receiver in the NFL, and he very well might be. I mean, the guy is electric when he gets the ball in his hands, but he goes for a 3rd and a 5th. So it's like, if you're the Giants, I know it stings right now. It obviously stings really bad, to lose a player with that talent. But again, I say, what were you going to be with him? What have you been with him? Right? You were a playoff team once. He stunk in the playoffs, quite honestly, and you haven't made it back. You've won 8 games since, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? So it's like, the direction that this team was going was not good with him. It doesn't appear to be good now, but at least you have some sort of draft capital this year, where you can go out and you can start filling holes in the defense with young guys, and you can even go out and get that quarterback that you need.
That's what I was going to say too. They could also, I don't know. I believe it's 2 picks in the first round, but you could package something together. Say Dwayne Haskins is the guy you want. You throw a little package together, try and move up in the draft, try and get him ahead of 5 or 6 spot, and see what happens.
Right. I mean, now this trade. I know they're eating a little bit of $16 million in the dead cap, but I always look at it like, I feel like the salary cap in the NFL is so easy to maneuver, right? You start throwing money here, throwing money there, and eventually none of it ends up going against your cap. So there's ways around that. And, for me, it's like now, like you said, now the Giants have some flexibility to go and do, package a deal to go get this guy, package a deal to move up in the draft. Obvious, like I said, when you look at it right on the surface, it's like, what are the Giants thinking? This guy is such a great player. He's so talented. But, I think if you take a step back and you realize kind of the direction that you were going wasn't going to be good either. You know what I mean? Like, you were never, if you had Odell, and Saquon, right? You were never going to be in the top spot to land Trevor Lawrence anyways. So if that's the direction, well, now you've made it, right?
Now you're in the driver's
seat.
Right.
Now you literally are, the front runner to be the number one pick 2 years in a row, quite honestly. So it's like that's the way I would look at it, from my point of view is you had one good year with him in terms of the win-loss column, and then from that point on you won, 8 or 9 games? I know he got hurt the year after they made the playoffs and he was out for the year. But, the direction of that team was, they didn't know which way was up to begin with.
And not to pick on Odell, though, because it's not like all those losses were his fault.
No,
the guy still put up numbers and stuff like that. But it just goes back to Eli Manning. It's as long as Eli Manning's there, that team is not going to grow anywhere. They're not going to make a step forward. They're constantly going to be taking a step backwards, and it just all falls back to that last draft, taking Saquon.
And it's and you can say, well, talk about his numbers he puts up and this and that, but the Giants have had only one identity in Odell's tenure here, and it was that playoff year when they went 11-5, and it was all defense. All defense. I mean, I would have to go back and look at it, but I would bet you that more than 50% of their games were one-possession games. 7-point, 6-point, 3-point wins, whatever it may be. Then the following year, a bunch of guys on defense fall off. Odell falls off. They win 3 games. And they've never had a real identity on offense. I mean, it took them up until, I don't even know if they did score 30 points this year in a game. I think they did, but
I was just going to bring up what was the point streak that they went on for a few games there?
They were like
about 20 points.
They were into like 20-something games without going over what was it, 20 or 30 points. So it's not even like they were throwing up a bunch of numbers either, on the scoreboard. So we don't have to beat a dead horse here with the Odell situation. I know the Pats made some moves.
Real quick, Tom, do you think Bill called about Odell?
No, I don't think Bill called. I did see that he did call on AB though, and I don't know how credible it was, but I did see he called on AB, and the offer that he gave for AB was actually better than that of the Raiders. And the Steelers turned it down.
No way the Steelers rescinded him over here.
No, absolutely not. But I mean, if you want to do business the right way, you should have taken the best deal. But
probably kicking themselves now.
Yeah, but
I don't think so.
So
with a dad bod like that, I don't think he.
Anyway, so. We are at 6:30, so we will head to a quick break. The phone number here is 978-374-1900. Give us a call with your thoughts, and we'll be right back.
Good Sports will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. Good Sports is sponsored in part by attorney Gerard Laflamme of Haverhill.
It's 6:33. Public radio for Greater Haverhill. This is 97.9 WHAV.
Catch the wave!
Melinda's Garden Moments help gardeners create and maintain a healthy, beautiful garden with ease, inside or out, and all year long. This is Melinda Myers, inviting you to tune in every weekday morning, right here on WHAV. You'll learn creative ways to grow your own vegetables and herbs while beautifying your landscape. Eco-friendly lawn care, flower garden design basics, unique container gardens, attracting birds and butterflies to the landscape, and much more. Again, please join me weekday mornings for Melinda's Garden Moment for a very environmentally friendly approach to gardening. Remember, only local radio can bring you this feature opportunity, but only WHAV does.
Attorney Gerard Laflamme, born and raised in Haverhill, has been practicing law since 1980. A graduate of Haverhill High in 1971, as well as the University of Maine and the Ohio State School of Law. His main focus is on OUI and DWI. Attorney Laflamme is also licensed in New Hampshire. And in 2013, he was inducted into the UMaine Hall of Fame, where he held 15 school track records, including the school mile record, which he held for 41 years. Attorney Gerard Laflamme, 978-521-4737. Online at havlaw.com.
Wave weather.
Now your wave weather forecast for Haverhill in the Merrimack Valley. Little sleet or some freezing rain and plain rain as we go through around 1 a.m., then becoming just partly cloudy, low 29 degrees. Pretty calm wind throughout your Thursday. Mainly sunny skies with high pressure in place, high 50. A low of 40 Thursday night, partly cloudy with some patchy fog, and a few widely scattered showers, and warming up to 62 on Friday. I'm WHAV meteorologist Brian Ivy. Your next wave weather in 30 minutes.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents Good Sports with Paul Ryan and Tommy Morgan. Good Sports is sponsored in part by Haverhill attorney Gerard LaFlamme. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
And we're back here in the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom. This is Good Sports. I'm Tommy Morgan, alongside a good friend of mine, Christian Parcacino. And we got Dave Morrison, as always, on the other side of the glass. We've been talking NFL free agency, and we dove into the Odell Beckham trade, kind of heavy there in the first half of the show. But, I would like to switch gears a little bit. We are a Massachusetts-based radio station, so we should be talking a little Patriots, and I'd like to talk Patriots as well, because there's obviously been some moves that have affected the Patriots, both call it negative if you want, as well as positively. But first topic, that I want to get your opinion on, Proc, is what do you think about Trey Flowers moving on?
Very upset to see that guy. I've talked to you a little bit about this. I'm not the biggest believer in Michael Bennett. Not saying he won't be good, but obviously losing a guy like Trey Flowers is tough, and it hurts. I was a big Trey Flowers fan, but obviously you just can't really pay him that kind of money. I mean, what did he end up getting? $18 million a year, I think it is. That just wasn't in the cards for us, so you can't really fault the guy for going and getting the money that he deserves. So that was obviously tough to lose. Very disappointed about Trent Brown too, although we don't really know what Isaiah Wynn's going to do and how that Achilles is holding up. But to lose a guy like that, protecting Tom, especially as Tom's getting up there in age, that's definitely not what you want to see. But still holding out hope that Isaiah Wynn can make a full recovery and be the guy that they thought he was going to be when they drafted him in the first round. But what are your thoughts about Trey Flowers?
So, I too love Trey Flowers. I thought he was perfect for what we were trying to do, on the defensive side of the football. Obviously, won 2 Super Bowls with us, and, made probably the second biggest play in that Atlanta Super Bowl, sacking Matt Ryan, pushing him out of field goal range late in the game there.
Such an underrated performer in that game.
Yeah. But for me, it's like, I thought that if the Patriots came to the table with, $13-14 million, and, he was going to, I thought he was going to get somewhere around, 15, 16, 17, out on the market. I thought if a team came in at maybe say 16 and the Pats came in around 13, 14, I thought he would have been inclined to take a little hometown discount. But obviously the $18 million, the Pats aren't coming close to that. Especially, and as good as Trey Flowers was for us, and as much as I liked him as a player and wanted him back, definitely don't think that he's worth $18 million.
No, he's not.
No.
For me, I think what people kind of lose sight of is, you look at a lot of guys that have moved on from New England, and they're really never the same player. You know what I mean?
Nate Solder.
Right. You know what I mean? Like, I think that, especially what they try to do defensively, I think it's such a system-type defense that you can get guys, like a Trey Flowers in the 4th round, coach him up, and get the absolute most out of him. And then obviously, what he does for us, he's a Super Bowl 2-time Super Bowl champion. Other teams are going to look at that out in the market and be like, we got to get this guy.
Especially his performance in the playoffs and the big games too. That definitely helped his market.
Let's go to Cordell Patterson leaving the Pats. Of course, as you guys know, he's going to sign a 2-year deal with the Chicago Bears, worth about $5 million per year, according to Ian Rappaport.
Yeah,
multiple reports actually. Now that one hurts.
No, what are you kidding me?
That was one of those things I saw, and I was like, oh, well.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, see you later. I mean,
tough room.
What did he? What I don't even. What did he even do for us? Really, he ran the ball well against Buffalo.
Exactly. He put a little like.
We almost lost that game.
Yeah. I mean, we did see it came down to the pick six from McCourty, but I mean, like,
just get out of Orchard Park.
In the big picture, like, is that guy worth $5 million a year?
Yeah, you ran him 2 or 3 times a game maybe, and threw a couple quick screens out to him.
Yeah, he was good.
You could find someone else to do that.
He's good for a jet sweep a game, right?
Exactly.
You can go out there and get Tavon Austin or somebody for half that price.
Exactly.
And he can do the same thing.
I will miss him in special teams, though. It's the one.
Yeah, I mean,
I think okay.
I'll give him that.
You could go back there and catch kicks.
I don't know about that.
Everybody's kicking it out of the back of the end zone anyways these days. So it's like, you don't even need a returner at this point. You just need a guy who can go in the end zone and put his hand up in the air and catch it. There are much bigger needs for this Patriots team than worrying about Cordell Patterson coming back. There's one thing I did admire about him, though.
Well, he was an integral part. Go ahead.
The one thing I did admire about him, and I'll say this, is I thought that he played the game very hard. I thought he was a tough player.
Ran hard for sure.
Yeah, I thought he brought a level of toughness to the team, but that sort of style of play can be found anywhere, across this league for, like I said, half that money. So good luck to him in Chicago. But I did want to get back to my Trey Flowers point for a second, because while we did lose Trey Flowers, I know that Michael Bennett doesn't necessarily play the edge, and I know that was, Trey Flowers is a defensive end, and he did play the interior somewhat. But I think you're okay, right? I think you're okay with Michael Bennett filling that role.
What do you think about Justin Houston out there?
So it's funny you say that, because Clay Matthews is still out there as well.
Marcus Golden, too, another guy.
So for me, it's like, I'm okay if you want to go out there and get a guy like Justin Houston or Clay Matthews, someone who's, a little bit older, maybe kind of on the back end of their career a little bit. I know the Patriots have done that in the past a little bit. They took a shot on Andre Carter, maybe 4 or 5 years back, and he ended up having 10 sacks for us. So he was productive. But for me, right, because this kind of leads me into the draft coming up as well. I know that this draft is specifically loaded with guys who can play the defensive line. So for me, it's like, if you want to go out there and give a guy like Justin Houston a shot, someone who's a really good professional, a good football player, bring him in on a 1-year deal, 2-year deal, I'm totally cool with that.
When I was thinking about him, I was thinking a lot about James Harrison, how we just kind of brought him in. Didn't really run him as much, but if you have a guy like Justin Houston that you could go out there and sub in and out with Michael Bennett, or put him on the opposite side of Michael Bennett, I mean, he's still a guy that is fully capable of going out there and getting 10 sacks or 9 sacks a year. So
right, and I think to that point too. There's still a lot of young guys that the Patriots have in this system at the defensive line as well. Dietrich Wise.
Just brought John Simon back.
Yeah, Derek Rivers is another guy. So there's obviously a certain level of veteran leadership. I don't know if Michael Bennett is your typical veteran leadership type guy that, you can say, go ahead and, in the defensive line group and get these guys up to speed. I think a guy like Justin Houston or Clay Matthews would be more of a guy who, you'd be looking to do that. And I'd be okay with that, because, my thought is right, you got to go out and you got to get linebackers, and you got to get guys that can play the defensive line in this draft. I know the secondary's aging a little bit as well, but we do have some young talent there. John Jones being one of them. J.C. Jackson, who came on late last year, really a big part of that secondary down the stretch. So the front seven to me is going to be the biggest need in this draft. So if you want to bring in an older guy that is going to take the majority of the reps, and you can start wrinkling in some younger guys that you pick up, I'm totally cool with that. So, for me, though, the biggest thing that I want to see the Patriots do is go get a wide receiver. And the name that jumps out to me, I mean, he's really the only guy still out there, but that's Golden Tate.
Absolutely.
And I think he'd be a perfect fit.
And I think you know, I'm basing this off that one podcast where he said it, but I mean, if you're a guy like Golden Tate, a slot guy, I mean, who better to go play for than Tom Brady, especially while he's, you know, not in his prime, obviously, but still has shown that he can go out there and lead a team to a championship. And, you know, Golden Tate's not old, but he's getting up there in his career.
No,
I mean,
we haven't learned anything from Josh Gordon, so why not?
No, you're right, and you know, I think that
just putting it out
you know,
there.
we brought Josh Gordon in here, and you know, was able to, you know, catch some passes, touchdowns, and I think what he did, you know, for those 11 games he played was fine. I just don't think he's the style of receiver that this football team is accustomed to. I think Golden Tate fits that mold much better. A guy that runs really good routes, can catch the ball in traffic.
takes pressure off Edelman.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know Edelman obviously was just the Super Bowl MVP and was dynamite in the playoffs, but he's aging. Right, he takes a beating year in and year out. You know, if you can get a guy in there, you know, to relieve, like you said, relieve some pressure off Edelman. You know, I think that's top of the list for me, anyways. And then, you know, for me, I might still be living off the Super Bowl high and all that, but you know, I look around the league and it's like, with what we have coming back right now and the opportunity that we have to pick up, you know, a guy like Golden Tate or whatever, I think that's really all you need.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, we don't really need to make that big of a splash.
You try and re-sign Philip Dorsett or Chris Hogan, one of those guys, for a relatively cheap contract, and you know, you're kind of set, like you said.
I mean, you know, when you look at the roster right now, obviously it's not
minus tight end though. That's a bit of an uncertainty
right
on the offensive side.
You know, I know when you look at the Patriots roster right now, it certainly wouldn't be defined as youthful, but I still think you have time. Right now, the Patriots are in a win.
And you have plenty of draft picks this year to
12
to
draft
add
picks.
to that youthfulness.
Right, and that's my point. Is like you're in a win now mode, right? With Tom Brady, as soon as you sent Garoppolo to San Francisco, you basically threw the future or the rebuilding that you were at now out the window, and you're in a win now mode. And I think bringing a guy like Michael Bennett in kind of fits that mold, right? I mean, I know you can say what you want about him in the off-field antics and all that, but guy can still play football, right? He's got the numbers to show that. You know, I heard a couple days ago, right? He's third in the league in the last 3 years in quarterback pressures, only behind two guys.
Two pretty good guys.
Khalil Mack and Von Miller. So it's like, you know, he's still got some juice left in the tank. So, you know, I'm okay with him filling in for Trey Flowers if it's on a 2-year deal. I'm perfectly fine with that, and I think it's a good addition to this team.
What do you think about the Martellus rumors that are coming out now?
I'm okay with him. I don't need him back here. You know, I think you can get a guy who can do what Dwayne Allen did in the draft, right, and then kind of develop him a little bit. But we are at quarter of the hour, so we will be taking a quick break. The phone number here, 978-374-1900. We'd love to hear your thoughts on NFL free agency, Odell Beckham trade, Patriots free agency, whatever you have on your mind. We'll be right back.
Good Sports will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. Good Sports is sponsored in part by attorney Gerard Laflamme of Haverhill.
If you want to know what's going on at WHAV, sign up for the free monthly Wavelengths newsletter online at WHAV.net.
Catch the wave!
When the Haverhill School Committee meets, 97.9 WHAV FM is there live from Haverhill City Hall. Class sizes, special education, teacher hiring, and spending are among the topics covered Thursday nights at 7 when the school committee is in session. Presented as a public service from 97.9 WHAV FM.
Catch the wave. WHAV.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents Good Sports with Paul Ryan and Tommy Morgan. Good Sports is sponsored in part by Haverhill attorney Gerard Laflamme. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
That is the phone number, 978-374-1900. Would love to hear from you. We've been heavy on the NFL free agency talk. But, anything that you have on your mind, we'd love to hear from you. And I believe we do have a call
Yes,
right now.
we do.
Right,
If you guys can hear on the other side of the glass, we have Dan in Haverhill who wants to chime in on NFL free agency. Go ahead, Dan.
Hey, Dan, what's on your mind?
How's it going, guys?
Hey, Dan.
What's up, Tommy?
Oh, Dan, what's going on, brother? How are you?
Watch out 98.5. You're going to
That's
be on the radio.
That's a competitor. Whoa, hey.
Yeah,
hey.
No free ads.
What do you got, Dan?
No, I wanted to call in, see what you guys thought about Pats drafting the QB of the future. I sort of feel like this is a very bad QB draft class, especially with the Herbert kid from Oregon staying back. You got Jake Fromm from Georgia. Tua will be in next year's draft. Be a QB-loaded draft. I think that's where they're going to – I'm not going to be surprised if they don't take a QB this year somewhere in the draft and wait till next year when the class is a little bit more loaded.
Dan, I don't think you could have said it any better.
Yeah.
I'm totally with you. At this point, it's like, Brady's coming off another Super Bowl. He still has one more year left on the contract, and it's evident that he wants to stick around here for maybe a couple more seasons after that. And I'm totally cool with it. If they don't get a quarterback this year, I'm not upset by it by any means. I'd rather them go get players that they'll be able to keep here for a very long time.
I agree with that, too. I think a guy you should look at, second, third round for my alma mater, what's his name? Andy Isabella from UMass. He looks like a typical Pat slot receiver. Go get the guy. Julian Edelman might have a year or two left here. Get the guy to replace him, sort of like they did with Welker and Edelman back.
I love it, Dan.
And then the QB there, all the mock drafts are saying is to get Daniel Jones from Duke.
Yeah.
That sounds like a total bust to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've seen that as well, and so you'll actually be able to relate to this. Dan Rourke, coach of Haverhill High School, I've known for many years, is actually a very, very big fan of the Duke football head coach. Very big fan of him. Cutcliffe.
Coach Peyton Manning, right?
He did.
And somebody else too. He coached a couple guys, I believe.
Yeah, Peyton Manning is the one that stands out to me, though. If Daniel Jones did fall into our lap, if he slid down the board into the second round, by all means, if we got him, I'm okay with it. As many years as you can get under Tom Brady, the better, in my opinion. But that doesn't change me from my initial point. Is if we don't need a quarterback this year, it's like, because if Tom Brady goes down, it doesn't matter who your backup is, whether it's the guy of the future or Brian Hoyer, right? The guy, if you draft him this year, if he has to play next year, you're not winning anything anyway, so it doesn't matter.
I just don't think the QB class is any good.
No, you make a good point about that, too.
I mean, Kyler Murray could be, he's a spectacular talent, but he'll be long gone before, it even reaches us.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, the only two guys for me that are, guys that I would take in the first round and the second round maybe are Dwayne Haskins and Kyler Murray. But like you said, they'll be long gone by the time it gets to us. So, I don't really see a point of, reaching for a guy like Daniel Jones or something like that. Maybe when, like you said, the quarterback class next year is loaded with talent. I think that's the year that you go out and you find a guy to replace Tom. Hopefully, get him maybe a year or two under Tom.
Exactly. Do the sort of redshirt year.
Yep. Absolutely.
The other thing I want to talk about, the two teams that I just don't think have any sort of plan whatsoever in the NFL. The New York Giants.
Yeah, we were talking about that.
They've.
Who was the other team you said, Dan?
The Oakland Raiders are selling. They go last year. They sell Khalil Mack. They get rid of Amari Cooper, and now they come out and trade for Antonio Brown. It just doesn't make sense.
No,
you have no one to get him the ball.
No, if you want to compare the two teams, the Raiders are sitting on a gold throne right now compared to where the Giants are at. I don't know if you were listening earlier on in the show, but I looked at the Odell Beckham trade and I said the Giants were going to be bad this year, regardless if they had him or not. I think that while they might not have a defined direction, I think if you look at it and you say, okay, now you got 2 first-round picks, you fill the hole, that Landon Collins left with Jabril Peppers, right? At least you're starting to plug pieces, right? Pieces that can play there long term. You're not just going and throwing a bunch of money into free agency again. So the Giants have a little flexibility now. At least I know, obviously, giving up a generational type talent is not the way you'd like to go about it. But I said they had one good year with Odell. I mean, I know Odell had more than one good year, but when you look at it in the win-loss column,
yeah, I know.
Think
about how the Steelers.
You're cutting in and out.
Yeah, you got a little bad reception there.
Antonio Brown's a little more expensive, sort of out of it, but the Giants got back a first and a third and a player, and the Steelers all they got is a third and a fifth.
Right, but
they feel like they got robbed.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. I mean, when you look at the trades on paper, right, the Giants made out like bandits compared to the Raiders.
Oh, absolutely.
I think the thing for the Giants, though, was that they weren't trying to shop Odell, so it was kind of one of those things where if you want him, we'll listen. You can come and call and give us your best offer, whereas the Steelers had no choice. They had to get rid of the guy, so they kind of had their backs up against the wall when it came to Antonio Brown.
And then that sort of falls on Mike Tomlin, too. I don't understand how he gets out of that whole Steelers mess scotch-free, and he mismanaged that team severely
for years.
That's the type of talent that Pittsburgh Steelers team has so much talent, and now they're all gone. And
right,
they didn't win jack. They got to an AFC Championship game and got blown out.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. Listen,
Jags are looking. They're stacked. They got Nick Foles.
Dan, we got to get you in the front office, my man.
Yeah.
You got a good head on your shoulders over there. What you got anything else for us, Dan?
No, I got nothing else.
All right, it was good to hear from you.
Tommy saw your tweet online.
Did you give me a follow?
On my ride home from work.
Did you give me a follow? Give me a follow on my new account.
You got to give me a follow back.
I will.
All right.
You got it.
Do.
All right, thanks, Dan. Thanks for the call.
Guys.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of the show.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. 978-374-1900. Give us a call if you want to talk about NFL free agency right here on Good Sports 97.9 WHAV. What's the Twitter handle? Tommy Morgan.
That Twitter handle is TMorg, and then it's capital G for good, capital S for sports. That's the new handle. I'll be throwing some show updates on there, trying to get a little more publicity for us here at the station. But back to Dan's points. I think he made some really good points, in that call. I'm totally with him. I don't need a quarterback this year.
Absolutely not.
I thought last year I was kind of in the mode like, oh God, we just got. I was still coming off the Jimmy Garoppolo was the future type thing, and what did we just do? And I'll put my hand up and say I'm guilty of that. And it looks like I think it's gonna. It looks like at least. I mean, you could have traded Tom Brady for 10 years of Jimmy Garoppolo, and maybe you get 2 Super Bowls. I think you definitely would have gotten 1, but maybe 2. So I'm okay. Now I'm looking back at it, I'm like, okay, I wish we could have gotten a little bit more for him, but totally happy that we got to keep Tom Brady. Last year I was totally like, we need a quarterback. And this year I've settled down a little bit, and you're totally right. I know you're a big Jake Fromm guy.
Absolutely.
I think he might be a guy that you could see fall, maybe late in the first round, early second round, just considering who he's going to be going up against. I mean, like the names like Tua and the Herbert kid out of Oregon, right? Herbert was a projected first round pick this year, before he even announced that he was going to go back to school. So, Jake Fromm would be a guy that I would totally be on board with.
Yeah, but I completely agree with you. I mean, if it's one of those things where if the draft comes around and they take a quarterback in the late rounds or the second and third, then I'll be all right with it. I mean, I won't be like blown away or think he's the quarterback of the future, but it's just not really a necessity. I'd, like you said, much rather see them wait till next year.
Yeah.
Maybe try and move up a little bit, get one of those top guys in the class, and go from there.
Right. To me, there's like there's so many other positions right now that you can build with in this draft long term, especially on the defensive side of the football. So that's the direction I'd like to go see. They went heavy in the first round last year in offense. I'd like to see them kind of flip the side of the field and go defense this year. But
completely agree.
All right.
It is news time.
Yeah, we're at the top of the hour, but one quick question, gentlemen. If you can answer this and my smart response, whatever it might be, Danny Etling on the practice squad. Any hopes?
No.
Is he still on the practice squad?
I don't even know if he's still on the team.
Okay.
If that answers your
Zero.
question.
All right. Because my girlfriend, who is an LSU alum, was wishing and hoping and praying at the start. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I don't think that there's a future here for him. But
I think he's a placeholder guy,
Yeah.
one of those guys that they took a chance on. Chance isn't working out too well.
He's the guy that walks around the field at the end of practice and puts all the footballs in the bag.
Kim, I hope you're not listening.
Kimmy. We are at the top of the hour, so it is news time. We should be back here approximately 8 minutes, so we'll still be looking to take all your phone calls. The phone number is 978-374-1900. We'll be back after the news.
It's 7:01.
WHAV LP Haverhill.
Here's the latest WHAV news. I'm Wynn Damon. Haverhill police were at the Nettle Middle School this morning before the opening bell to sweep the Boardman Street building after a bomb threat was written on a bathroom wall. Officials telling WHAV. Deemed not credible, the threat was found before school opened. Principal Tim Corkery said in a letter to parents. The campus was immediately swept by police at the request of Superintendent Margaret Marotta. And while nothing was found, an increased police presence in and around the school is going to be seen throughout the day. All threats to school safety are taken very seriously, and the police department continues to investigate the threat, according to Corkery. Haverhill Public Library Executive Director Sarah Moser submitted a proposal to help ease long-standing parking concerns in the library parking lot at last night's Haverhill City Council meeting. Moser said that many library users have had a hard time parking in the lot during the week while nearby district court is in session. Moser, along with Public Works Director Michael Stankovich, recommended that additional signage and permits could help improve parking in the lot.
Our patrons often find it hard to even get into the parking lot. Certain times of day, it's pretty impossible, especially Tuesdays and Thursdays in the morning when court is in session. Sometimes our lot will actually be 3/4 of the way full by 9 a.m. when we open.
The parking plan, according to Stankovich, calls for 15 spaces to be reserved for court patrons. Additional parking enforcement would be included in the plan.
I know enough about parking my last 10 years here to realize that it can be complex because we have a number of different constituents. We have library patrons, we have folks that visit the courthouse. We also have some residents that are parking in that lot overnight as well.
The councilor sent the plan to the City Council's Planning and Development Committee for further review. And Haverhill's Police Department, in partnership with Haverhill Public School Superintendent Margaret Marotta, are planning a panel discussion on the hidden dangers associated with teen vape usage later this month. According to Chief Alan Denaro, his team of school resource officers and narcotics division was inspired to act after an alarming increase in the presence of THC oils and related paraphernalia in city schools. The forum is going to be held on March 27th and is open to parents with children of any age.
Identified a significant need for an educational component for parents in the city of Haverhill due to the fact that this is reaching epidemic proportion with youth, not only in Haverhill but across the country. I mean, we're getting kids in elementary school up through high school, so we're getting 10-year-olds to 18-year-olds that are involved with this. So we felt very compelled that we should run a session.
Following this month's forum, the police department plans to schedule professional development and training for school administrators in an effort to get out in front of the new epidemic. In WHAV sports, an off night tonight for the Bruins and the Celtics. The Red Sox have an exhibition game this afternoon as they'll be taking on the Twins in JetBlue Park. And in high school sports tournament action, girls basketball Division II, the Pentucket Sachems are in the state semifinals. They are going to be taking on Pembroke tonight at 5:30 at the Garden in Boston. And in girls hockey Division I, Methuen-Tewksbury is going to be taking on Austin Prep in the championship game, although no date or time has been announced. Remember, WHAV is the only Haverhill-based news source, and there's always more at WHAV.net. From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, this is Wynn Damon.
From Feature Story News in Washington, I'm Giles Gibson. The parents of an American student who died after being detained in North Korea have slammed Pyongyang after US President Donald Trump praised Kim Jong-un. Pakistan has released an Indian pilot captured after his plane was shot down over Pakistan-administered Kashmir. And President Trump is calling on lawmakers to seize the manuscript of his former lawyer Michael Cohen, saying it will show Cohen lied to Congress.
Wave weather.
Now your wave weather forecast for Haverhill in the Merrimack Valley. Little sleet or some freezing rain and plain rain as we go through around 1 a.m., then becoming just partly cloudy, low 29 degrees. Pretty calm wind throughout your Thursday, mainly sunny skies with high pressure in place, high 50, a low of 40 Thursday night, partly cloudy with some patchy fog, and a few widely scattered showers, and warming up to 62 on Friday. I'm WHAV meteorologist Brian Ivy. Your next wave weather in 30 minutes.
97.9 FM, WHAV. Broadcasting on the Armstrong FM system, this is 97.9 WHAV.
Catch the wave, WHAV, Merrimack Valley.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents Good Sports with Paul Ryan and Tommy Morgan. Good Sports is sponsored in part by Haverhill attorney Gerard LaFlamme. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
Back here, Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom. It is Wednesday night, and Wednesday night means Good Sports over here at WHAV. That is the phone number as well, 978-374-1900. Give us a call. We've been heavy on the NFL free agency talk. Obviously warranted with all the moves that have gone down, and the Odell Beckham trade, Antonio Brown. A lot of big names being moved throughout the NFL this week. Earl Thomas goes to the Ravens. Mark Ingram goes to the Ravens. So a lot of blockbuster type names.
Le'Veon to the Jets. CJ Mosley to the Jets.
Yep. Obviously, lots to talk about there. But I did want to switch gears a little bit again and go to the Bruins. The red hot Bruins, or once was red hot,
cooling off a little bit.
You can afford to lose 2 games in a row.
After you go 19 straight with the point, I think it's okay.
Yeah, for me,
it's going to happen.
I've taken the cheese on this Bruins team. So I'm not going back on it. But the loss to Pittsburgh, I don't think really was too concerning to me. On the second night of a back-to-back down there in Pittsburgh, a Pittsburgh team that is right now in playoff mode, if you will, needing to scrap for every point right now to get into that wild card spot. So I look at that game and I'm like, okay, you're on the second night of a back-to-back, and Pittsburgh just wants it more, which is going to happen, in the NHL. It's a grind, it's a tough sport, all that. Last night is the night I would have liked to see them bounce back, going up against a Columbus team who hasn't been playing good hockey.
No, especially since the deadline. Made all those big moves. You got a couple guys in, and just hasn't really seemed to pan out for those guys.
Right, and Columbus was a team that they were maybe going to pivot and work.
Start selling off.
Yeah, right. You heard the name Panarin out there. The young stud they have there who can put the puck in the net.
Pretty good scrap with McAvoy.
Oh yeah, night. that was really good. So I'm certainly not anywhere near the panic button on this team, but the thought is creeping into my mind that and I know that they're not playing with Pastrnak right now. I know DeBrusk was out last night with the foot injury and what have you, but a game I thought they were going to be able to win, and I know that they came back from 5-1 down. Still gives me a small sense of uneasiness when I look at this team right now. I don't know about you, but I know you're not a. I know you're more of a Sabres guy than you are a Bruins guy, but you live in the area. You've been watching a lot of hockey, so
I have, yeah. I mean, me and you were at the game a few nights
Yeah.
ago. I've been heavy on the Bruins past couple of weeks, but last night for me, obviously you would have liked to see them win the game, but looking at some positives, something to take out of that game is you go down 5-1, 28 minutes into the game, and then next thing you know, almost by the end of the period, you're down 5-4, and it's a one-goal game. I mean, you're right back in that game. So if you're a Bruins fan, obviously the 2 losses in a row, they suck after going 19 games with a point. But, that's something that you can look at and say, all right, well, you know what, it just wasn't their night. But they never stopped fighting. They never stopped trying for that game. 5-1 in a hockey game in the second period, it's pretty easy to just go, oh, well, tonight's not our night, and just kind of roll over and walk out of there 7-1 or something like that. And to fight back, and Halak came in, played well, 9 saves, 10 shots. I mean, that kind of speaks to how the team played right there. I mean, Halak played 30 minutes, had 10 shots.
And if we looked at these two losses, this 2-game losing streak under a microscope, which I know we like to do around here with our New England teams, if this is the start of something really just sinister with the Bruins, I mean, let's face it, they weren't going to catch the Lightning for the Eastern Conference, the top spot, anyways,
Right.
were they? Or they weren't expected to.
No, absolutely.
I mean, from a realistic standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now, like you said, the Lightning might be a little out of reach. So I think right now, with how many games, they probably have, 12 or 13 games remaining.
Yeah.
I think at this point, it's just trying to, get as many points as you can, get the team going in the right direction come playoff time, and just try and hold on to that 2 seed.
Yeah, that's my thing too. And the thing for me is like to get out of the the Eastern Conference is going to be an absolute dogfight. I mean, you look at the teams that are in the Eastern Conference. 3 of the top 5 teams in the NHL are Tampa Bay 1, Bruins 2, Toronto I think is in there at 3 or 4,
And then you have Washington right behind Toronto.
Washington, and then you go out west and it's San Jose or Calgary and San Jose.
Nashville's still hanging
off the top
around.
of my head, but when you look at the Bruins. When you're projecting outwards to the playoffs, right? The Bruins playoff schedule is going to look like Toronto in the first round, Tampa Bay in the second round, right? And then you got to go play one of the metropolitan teams. Probably would be Washington, if I'm not mistaken. But for me, it's like as well as the Bruins had been playing during that 19-game stretch, and they played well enough because now I believe that they have a real fighter's chance to get to the Stanley Cup Finals, and for me, whoever's making it out of the East is winning the cup, in my opinion.
Completely
but
agree.
They were never really that far ahead of Toronto, and for me, it's like I don't want to go to Toronto in the first round and have to play in an away series against them, right? They have so much talent on that team. Mitch Marner, Austin Matthews. They got Tavares in the offseason. So it's like that team's no joke.
That series has Game 7 written all over it.
And we went to 7 games with them last year, right? And then they go ahead and they add Tavares, and it's like, oh my gosh, like usually if you're the second team in the NHL, right, you're usually getting some sort of a cupcake there in the first round. And instead, you're going up against Toronto.
Yeah.
All right, guys, let's go to the phones. We've got Sean in East Boston who'd like to chime in on the Bruins. Go ahead, Sean.
What's up, Razor?
What's going on, fellas?
Hey, Sean.
How's it going?
What do you got?
Yeah, guys, I wouldn't make too much of the last couple of games for the Bruins. If you look back, I mean, obviously last night was bad, and they did make it a game in the third, but there's really only been 3 games, and I heard this on the broadcast last night, where the Bruins just weren't in it. You remember opening night down in Washington, they got absolutely spanked, and then more recently in Florida, they lost 5-0 too.
Yeah.
But other than that, they've really been in every game late this season, so I wouldn't make much of it. Bad nights happen, so I don't see this being the beginning of a downward spiral. Especially, you hit on it, they're kind of battling the injury bug right now with Pasternak, but you also have to remember Grizzy on the back end and also DeBrusque. So they're definitely not playing at full strength right now, but I wouldn't think too much of it.
Yeah, like I said, I'm nowhere near the panic button with this team. It's just I guess maybe it's kind of the recency bias for me. Like as well as they've been playing. you just kind of look at this team and think, okay, they can go into a team, go into a game against a team like Columbus, who, like Brock said, had been struggling since the deadline, and kind of get the wheels back on track. And my only thing is like, I wasn't able to fully complete the point. It's like, you're not that far in front of Toronto, right? And that's
4 points.
That's who you're gonna be playing in the first round of the playoffs. And I would, I don't know about you, Sean, but I would much rather have that team at home, for that series than I would to want to go on the road and play them. If it sounds like it's going to go 7 games, it feels like it's going to go 7 games. I'd rather have that 7th game at home than on the road over, up there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think anybody's ruling out that the Bruins could lose the 2 seed right now. I think Toronto is 4 points back, and they have a game in hand, so anything can happen down the stretch. But yeah, to your point, obviously, any game 7, whether it's against Toronto, Washington, whoever, you want to be at home. So these games down the stretch definitely matter, and I just hope that we get back to where we were in our winning ways when playoffs come around.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you probably got to get out of here. So do you have anything else you want to bring to the table here?
Trying to think, Bruins related. I thought that scrap with McAvoy last night was awesome. I think that McAvoy should be manhandling a guy that weighs 160 pounds.
Well, I heard that Panarin is when he trains in the off season, he's actually doing some UFC sort of boxing or what have you. So it sounds like a guy who knows how to throw the hands. But listen, I'm not waving the finger at McAvoy. He got some heavy shots in there on Panarin.
Oh yeah.
There was a right hand that I thought would have knocked me out.
I don't know if it was before too, but when they showed Panarin in the box, looked like he had a little bit of a cut on top of his nose. So Chuck definitely got some good punches.
Man,
in there.
they were wailing on each other. That was sick. But Sean, as always, man, I appreciate you calling in.
Yeah, no problem, guys. Have a good night.
All right,
you too, buddy.
Going back to Sean's point, it's like, I'm not reading too much into it, because like I said,
I was reading too much into it.
Yeah,
because that's what I do. It's just a knee-jerk reaction. You guys are a little younger than I am, and I only look this young because I exfoliate. But no, I was born in the 80s, raised in the 90s, so I remember when these teams would get, go on these streaks, and then they would lose, and then it would just be this declination, and they could not stop. But we're in a new era, so maybe you guys can put me at ease. But no, you're probably right. I mean, I wouldn't look at it. I'd take it with a grain of salt.
David, I got a good idea.
Yeah.
Let's pick this up on the other side of the break.
I like that idea. Let's go. Let's do that. 978-374-1900. Oh, it's your job.
That's all right. Well, yep, that is the number, 978-374-1900. We'll be right back.
Good Sports will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. Good Sports is sponsored in part by attorney Gerard Laflamme of Haverhill.
Broadcasting on the Armstrong FM system, this is 97.9 WHAV.
Like to laugh? Then you'll like listening to Eve Arden as Our Miss Brooks on CBS Radio, with Cupid taking pot shots at her from one side and Mr. Conklin, the school principal, badgering her on the other. Our lovelorn school marm has a tough time tracking down her favorite male, Mr. Boynton. Every episode of Our Miss Brooks, starring Eve Arden, offers immediate insurance against the blues.
Old-time radio is heard 7 nights a week over 97.9 WHAV FM. Hear Our Miss Brooks Thursday nights at 10 with an encore performance at 1 a.m.
Community Spotlight.
The City's Council on Aging seeks volunteers with time to spare on the first Tuesday of each month from 7:30 to 10:30 a.m. to help fill brown bags for the Greater Haverhill Food Collaborative. Volunteer sessions are at the Pentucket Lake School, 252 Concord Street, Haverhill. To donate your time, call Rita, 978-374-2390. Submit your own nonprofit events and announcements at least 3 weeks in advance. For best results, use the online form under the Contact tab at WHAV.net. In the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, I'm Eric Scott.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents Good Sports with Paul Ryan and Tommy Morgan. Good Sports is sponsored in part by Haverhill attorney Gerard LaFlamme. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
And we're back here. Good Sports. I'm Tommy Morgan. Dave Morrison is always on the other side of the glass on the ones and twos, and making his second appearance here in Good Sports. Good friend of mine, Christian Procaccino. Just before the break, we were little Bruins talk. Known caller of ours, Sean from East Boston, called in, talk bees, and as I was thinking about his call. I was talking to him a couple weeks ago, and he said something to me that kind of stood out. That could be a silver lining, I guess. But he called here. It was maybe last week or the week before that, and he said, "I hope this isn't a case of them getting too hot too early." And I don't think that that's something that you ever want to look into, right? You got to win the games that you play, but. I think, last year with this Bruins team, you saw they went on a very similar tear towards the end of the year last year, and obviously, fizzled out against Tampa Bay. So if maybe there is a silver lining, right now they're working on getting guys healthy and loaded up, because I think what you did see from this team, a couple weeks back when they played Tampa Bay and were able to beat them pretty handily. The style of game that they played against Tampa Bay was what stood out. Just a very physically dominant style type game. Especially when they got guys like Kucherov and Stamkos, guys that like to play in space, that can score. That's the way you need to play against teams like that. At least in my opinion. And right now, like Sean said, they are a banged up team. So if this is what they need, call up a few guys from Providence on emergency call-ups and, get them some ice time and even try to piece points together at this point in the season. If that's the silver lining that you want to, look into, I totally understand it, because that's kind of, in the last 2 minutes I've kind of talked myself into that.
I mean, for me, when I'm watching the Bruins right now, what I see is just me and you, like I said, we were there a few days ago, and just seeing them up in person, you see how hard they play. And it started for me back at that Tampa game, just seeing how well they played and how hard and, like you said, physical they played. I don't know the total shots, but I remember them holding Tampa to it was 14 shots or something like that in the second period. And you talk about one of the most high-powered offenses in the NHL. And even over the rest of the 19-game point streak or whatever, it just seemed like this is a team that, cares about everybody in the locker room. It seems like it's a locker room that's together, good leadership, a team that goes out there and fights every night no matter what's happening. And you saw that again last night. You go down 5-1, and I know I mentioned it a few minutes ago, but 5-1 in a hockey game, it's real easy at that point to say, what, this isn't our night. We'll just kind of pack it in, coast the rest of the game. But they didn't. They come back and they get 3 quick ones to 5-4 game. I know the third period didn't turn out how we were hoping it was going to turn out, but it just goes back to them playing hard. They played hard that whole 19-game point streak, and for me, it's not really a silver lining. It's one of those things where you've done it, and if they go and they drop a few here and there, and they head into the playoffs limping a little bit, it's one of those things that you can fall back on and say, guys, look, we did this. We know what it takes to put together a couple games here and there. We have it in us. We've shown that we can do this. So, I don't want to look at it too negatively. I think it's just one of those things that you got to look at as a positive sign, that the locker room's coming together, that the new pieces, Charlie Coyle.
Yep. Yeah. Go ahead. I know.
No, go ahead.
Yeah. So, I think you made a really good point too, and just a quick thought is, I was driving home last night, or driving to Medford last night, and I didn't get to watch much of the game, but I was listening to it on the radio, and when Columbus made it 5-1, I just had this thought in my head, this thing isn't over. You're right. These guys are going to get it. the Bruins could very well win this game. Like there was no doubt in my mind they could score 5 goals and win that 6-5. And then by the time I get home, I'm in the driveway. It's 5-4 heading into the third period. So,
and even I believe it was last week too, when I think it was the Senators when they score 36 seconds left, and then you think, all right, well, we got a point out of this at least. We're going to go into overtime, and then you turn away for 10 seconds, and 6 seconds left on the clock, they score the game winner.
Right. That was 2 of the more recent games they played. They went down 2-0 to Ottawa, and they went down 2-0 to Florida. And were able to come back and win both those games. So you're absolutely right when you talk about the fight that this team has. And then touching on your other point, which I thought stood out, is that, I think the veteran leadership on this team is, impeccable. You got guys like Patrice Bergeron who have been here for, what feels like 100 years now, playing at the absolute top level of his game, won a cup, and,
Marshy, Chara,
exactly,
David Backes getting in fights.
So it's like, obviously, like you said, if this team, which, I don't anticipate, and I don't want to sit here and, make everybody think that, I'm out on the Bruins. I'm not, because I'm not. I think that this team has a real chance, to get past Toronto, get past Tampa Bay, get past Washington, and get to a Cup Finals. I just think that they have, all of the pieces that you would need to do that. And the veteran leadership is at the top of the list for me, because, like your point, you're heading into the playoffs, and along with the guys like Bergeron, Marchand, Chara, guys that have actually completed the mission of a season. You also have guys like DeBrusk and Heinen, guys who played in a playoff series last year, guys who maybe still have a sour taste in their mouth from that Tampa Bay series last year. So along with that veteran leadership, you do have a handful of young talent on this team that is producing, that also has played in the playoff style hockey.
Seems like a really good mix, like you said, of just veteran leadership and young talented guys, backstopped by 2 veteran goalies in Halak and Rask that have both done it.
You just brought up Rask. I mean, he had an off night, obviously, against the Blue Jackets. He didn't have his best outing. I think it was, a 16-0 in his last 20 starts behind the net, Tuukka. But, he just had an off night, so, we can let it slide. And he is a veteran, like you said, Christian. So,
yeah, and for me, I mean, like I said, I wasn't able to watch much of the game as I did listen to it. But, I did go back and check, the highlights out. And, to Tuukka's defense, he had really no help on any of those goals.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes when you pull a goalie like that, too, like it might not be entirely their fault, but it's just good for the guys, put Halak in and just say, hey, you know what, like we need a refresher, let's just try something new. And I think for the Bruins, I think the team really feels comfortable with either one of those guys back there, and that's something that's huge for a hockey team. If you have a goalie, or 2 especially, that when they're in that net that you can go like as hard as you want, and you have them back there to back you up, it brings out so much confidence in the team and helps them play free and easy. It's just such a big thing to have for a hockey team.
He wasn't the only factor. I mean, he was far from the factor of the main reason why they lost last night. He was just, he like you said, Tommy, he got no help, and you were listening to the Sports Hub in free advertising on the radio.
Yeah, for me, and to your point, obviously, in my opinion, I thought the defense, pretty much laid down there for the first, half of that game. But you were exactly right. Switching out the goaltender and putting somebody else in there, a guy that they also trust, a great way to send a message. And, it obviously worked. They were able to, get it within 1 going into the third period. So, for me, it's like, I was watching them on that 19-game point streak, and like you just get so invested in them winning hockey games. I know that dropping 2 in a row is going to happen in the course of an NHL year,
or any sport for that matter. Because I remember 2008, 2009 when the Celtics went on that 24 straight. When that streak, I think it was 24 games if memory serves me right, and then just the drop off afterwards, it's going to happen because the fan base, they expect the guys to just keep winning, and then when it doesn't happen, and when a team has to gather its collective energies, it's like what the heck, you know what I mean?
I think a lot, not not to panic, but I think a lot of the
go ahead
skepticism. No, I'm not panicking, but I think some of the skepticism that's creeping in right now is just the fact that we're at the end of the schedule basically, and they just went on this big run. So you lose these 2 games, and you start thinking, oh no, is this team going to start heading in the wrong direction when the playoffs are right around the corner? Which I don't think they are, but I just think that's part of the reason why you or me, we may be a little skeptical right now.
Yeah, absolutely. But it is 7:30,
bottom of the hour.
Yeah, so we will be taking a quick break here, but we'd like please stick around for the final half hour of the show. The phone number is 978-374, and we'll be right. 978-374-1900. We'll be back right after this.
Good Sports will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. Good Sports is sponsored in part by attorney Gerard Laflamme of Haverhill.
It's 7:31.
Try listening to WHAV in your car or anywhere on your mobile phone. For fast access, visit WHAV.net.
That we deliberate and achieve with wisdom and understanding, recognizing the rights of all of our citizens with full regard for the dignity and justice of the individual.
Each week, WHAV News brings you live gavel-to-gavel coverage of the Haverhill City Council. Listen to 97.9 WHAV FM each Tuesday night at 7 when the City Council is in session from the Theodore A. Pelosi Jr. City Council Chambers in City Hall. Presented as a public service from 97.9 WHAV FM. Attorney Gerard Laflamme, born and raised in Haverhill, has been practicing law since 1980. A graduate of Haverhill High in 1971, as well as the University of Maine and the Ohio State School of Law. His main focus is on OUI and DWI. Attorney Laflamme is also licensed in New Hampshire. And in 2013, he was inducted into the UMaine Hall of Fame, where he held 15 school track records, including the school mile record, which he held for 41 years. Attorney Gerard Laflamme. 978-521-4737. Online at havlaw.com.
WAVE weather.
Now your WAVE weather forecast for Haverhill in the Merrimack Valley. Little sleet or some freezing rain and plain rain as we go through around 1 a.m., then becoming just partly cloudy, low 29 degrees. Pretty calm wind throughout your Thursday, mainly sunny skies with high pressure in place, high 50, a low of 40 Thursday night, partly cloudy with some patchy fog, and a few widely scattered showers, and warming up to 62 on Friday. I'm WHAV meteorologist Brian Ivy. Your next WAVE weather in 30 minutes.
WHAV.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents Good Sports with Paul Ryan and Tommy Morgan. Good Sports is sponsored in part by Haverhill attorney Gerard Laflamme. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
And we are back here, Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom. It is another edition of Good Sports, rounding out the final half hour here. And we've touched on a lot tonight. We were heavy NFL free agency to begin the show, as I've said in the last segment, warranted with all the big names flying around the league, changing teams, this and that. And then we were able to go into the Bruins a little bit there, but. Christian, since you are on the show and as avid a golf fan as I know that you are, players starting tomorrow.
Sure is.
What are your thoughts?
Depends. Where do you want to start? Like who my guys are for the week, or
who do you think?
Hold on one sec, gentlemen. Sorry to interrupt, Christian and Tommy. This is a free form portion of the program. It's an idea. You can call in anybody 978-374-1900. Talk about. You can talk PGA. You can talk Bruins. We can talk Celtics. We can talk free agency. We can talk about Facebook, Instagram outages. You're not going to be doing anything else. Why not call in?
That's
Give
right.
it a shot.
Thanks, David. So if you had to pick one guy going into the week, that you would say is coming out on top this weekend, who would your first pick be?
The first person that comes to my mind, not sure why I think this, but I just have a feeling about him this week, is Justin Thomas. Guy who's been playing pretty well lately. I had a shot to win a couple weeks ago at the Genesis. If you look at his track record at the Players, pretty good. A couple top 10s, stuff like that. But a guy who I feel like his game's playing well right now. I've heard the course is playing long and soft, and Justin Thomas is one of the longest hitters on tour. Also a very good ball striker, pretty good putter. Just a guy that I could see, obviously on Sunday holding the Players Trophy. I'm excited to watch the Players. Like you said, a big golf fan. So first real tournament of the year, the 5th major. I'm pretty excited to see all the top guys out there. I'm pretty excited to see what Tiger Woods has in store for us coming off that neck injury. Who knows how he's feeling, what the game's looking like. So I hope to see him make the cut and, finish up healthy and be good to go for the Masters in a few weeks. But I'm really excited for this weekend. It's going to be our first real star-studded event with a ton of firepower. I also like guys like Brooks Koepka this week. How can you not like Brooks? He's got total package in terms of games. So how about you? Who are you looking forward to see this place?
Yeah, just quickly, I think, the reason that I too, big golf fan, and I enjoy watching it, especially there's nothing like a good Sunday finish. But, I think for me, the reason that this tournament stands out is, obviously it's quote unquote the 5th major, but just the names in the field alone, right? Any player who wins this, or any golfer who wins this, I should say, right, is going to be, as close to a household name, really, if you're a golf fan, as you can get.
Love the schedule change too, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely. This in March, to the Masters in April, and then you're off and running.
You get a big tournament every month, basically, from now until August.
Right, and for me, you said that the course is playing long and soft, and I know Dustin Johnson has not played well, particularly at the Players, but. When a course is setting up like that.
Just one of those guys that you can never really count out.
Right, and, the way that he can drive the golf ball and get himself into, short iron situations, and then the way that he's been able to dial in his game, with the short irons and the wedges, just a guy that, you could never be surprised if he's, at the end of the weekend holding up the trophy. But when I heard that the course was playing a little soft and you could hit the ball a mile here. He's a name that stood out. But for me, maybe not a guy that I want to, is going to win the tournament, but a guy that, I know that you're a fan of as well, who, I need to see get back on track here is Jordan Spieth.
Our guy.
He's been going through a rough stretch here, which feels, well over a year.
Took a look at his season results today when I was just scouting out the players. Don't quote me on the number, but I believe no finish better than like a tied for 37th or something like that I saw. So
this year?
Yeah, this year.
Wow.
So, a guy who's won multiple majors, is a PGA championship away from their career Grand Slam. Would love to see him, maybe not win this week, but post a top 10 or top 15, top 20, something like that. Get some momentum heading in for the Masters, which we all know Jordan loves and is always a favorite when we get to Augusta National. So love to see him at least, find some putting or some short game magic this week and just kind of get back to his normal ways and the Jordan Spieth that we all know and love.
Yeah, that's exactly it for me. And the thing with him, and he's always been such a great putter, and when you've watched him kind of over the last 6, 7, 8 months, it's like anytime he's standing over a putt that's like inside of 5 feet, it's like he's me standing over the putt, knees shaking, very gets very static over the golf ball, just doesn't have confidence in that club, and that club is really what's been projected him into top 10 of the world golf rankings, Masters, British Open. When you think back to when the putter really bailed him out was in the British Open 2 years ago. He drains that, he hits it OB or just shy of OB.
It's the 3-wood,
tees it off the driving range, makes bogey, and then he flips it around and he plays it 3 under on the way in to end up winning it, and that was all putting. So that's a guy who stands out to me. But I am in a little players pool, and I did take,
as am I.
I did take your guy there that you said first, Justin Thomas. I just think that, and for me, I was a guy who was, whatever about Justin Thomas for a long time, especially early on in his career, but certainly a player that's proven that he can get the job done, when the pressure's on. And I think I've started to get past his whole, throwing the fan out of the tournament thing for yelling at his ball to get in the bunker. He's good for golf, and I think that group of guys, collectively, Ricky Fowler, Jordan Spieth, Dustin Johnson, Justin Thomas, all those guys, I think they're really good for the game right now. So
that's another guy I'm looking forward to see play this week is Ricky. Got the win a few weeks ago, Wells Fargo. He's won the Players before. Had a lot of success at TPC Sawgrass, so I'd love to see Ricky, maybe post a top 5 or a top 10 or even win the thing.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Ricky too, and I feel like we say it every year with Ricky, and I feel like everybody says it every year. This is his year to win a major.
I truly believe that this year.
This is his year to win a major, and he's obviously good enough. I mean, he's a very good putter. I think he's really good off the tee. Good ball striker. So I mean, he has the complete game. I just don't know what it is, that's gotten him over the hump, but that hasn't gotten him over the hump, I should say. But I'll always say, if my guy Sergio Garcia can win a major, Ricky Fowler can definitely get the job done.
Let's move away from Sergio Garcia before I get too riled up.
Yeah, but no, I am looking forward to the tournament. This weekend, it's going to give me at least 4 or 5 hours of watching material tomorrow at work.
Absolutely.
Put it up.
And Francesco, I'm excited to see Francesco play this week after that Sunday at the Arnold Palmer Invitational. I don't know if you were able to catch that.
Yeah,
but what a round of golf that was.
He's a stud.
Yeah, very just a quiet guy that just quietly goes about his business. Just happened to, find himself in a good spot on Sunday, middle of the pack in terms of tee times, and then goes out, shoots a low score, is able to post, and just kind of watch the guys behind him try and catch up to him, which they ended up not doing. But he's a guy that I think his game's heading in the right direction. He's got 3 wins in his last 9 or 10 starts, I believe, on tour. One of them a major last year. So
yeah, I was just going to say that. I was drawing a blank. What was the major last year?
The British, I believe he won.
The British.
Yeah,
I think it was. I'm drawing a blank on it, but the round that he played last week at the Arnold Palmer, right? And it was drawing back memories of like the round that he played at to win his major.
Carnoustie,
right?
I believe.
Completely opposites, right? I mean, when he was at Carnoustie and won the British, didn't do anything spectacular. Just didn't make mistakes like everybody else around him. Like, I think he made, 2 birdies?
Yeah, I mean, that speaks to the tournament, too. I mean, the British is kind of, depending on the conditions, it's just one of those things where you might just have to go out there and hold on for dear life.
Right.
Whereas Arnold Palmer, you can go out there and, kind of attack some pins and make some moves.
But even still, I know that, I was watching the broadcast and they had Sam Saunders on, the grandson of Arnold Palmer, and he said that course was playing like a U.S. Open style course. I mean, just dry.
A lot of tucked pins, too.
Like greens were firm, not holding. And he went out there and shot 8 under.
The putt he had on 18, too, to seal it was incredible.
I didn't ever think I was going to be a fan of Molinari, but he's a stud. What do you got, Dave?
We got Brad on the train. He wants to talk about OBJ. Go ahead, Brad, if you can hear us.
What do you got, Brett?
Hey, guys. I mean, I don't really know what to say besides that it's going to go down as maybe the worst trade in NFL history.
So, listen, Brett, I'm being 100% serious when I want to have this conversation with you. The way I see it is, right, and you said it. You weren't going to be good this year anyways, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my thing is like when you look back at Odell and the career he had with the Giants, and I said this earlier on the show, you guys had 1-11-5 year, went to the playoffs, and then he went and laid an egg in the playoff game, and up until after that, you guys have been 3-10, 5-11, and I know he was hurt one of the years, but. his play wasn't equating to wins for you. And my thought, which I will stand by this till the day I die, if you went and got a quarterback at 2, say like Sam Darnold, Odell is here for however long you want to keep him here for. You're not trading him away if you go and get the quarterback that you should have gotten last year.
Okay, so what I have to say to that is, I mean, I definitely get the quarterback argument more so because the running back value isn't as high, but if we drafted Sam Darnold, our record this year is worse than what it is right now. We're drafting in the top 5 again. So you can get your quarterback again this year.
Right,
and
but
then in terms of...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
In terms of going forward...
He really is calling from the train.
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, Brett.
That's all right.
We got to let you go,
Yeah.
Brett. You're calling from the train, I assume the commuter rail. So thank you for calling in to Good Sports, and I'm sure you can talk to...
Call back if you get off the
Yeah,
train.
absolutely. And I apologize if I called him Brad.
No, that's all right. Listen, we'll... while we're back on it, let's just get back on the Odell train because now it's fresh in our mind again. But let's get back to it after the final break here. Numbers 978-374-1900. We'll be right back.
Good Sports will be right back. Get in on the action. Call 978-374-1900. Good Sports is sponsored in part by attorney Gerard LaFlamme of Haverhill.
Those Boston stations don't always understand weather in the Merrimack Valley. Stay informed with WAVE weather every 30 minutes, 24 hours a day on Soft Gold WHAV.
Catch the wave!
On air or online, 97.9 WHAV serves you. Twice an hour weekdays, keep up to date with exclusive local news and weather. Find out about civic events on Community Spotlight every quarter hour. And better prepare with WAVE weather every 30 minutes. Mass Moments, Melinda's Garden Moment, Soundbeat, and Insight Daily complete the spectrum. Hear classic comedy and drama 7 nights a week at 10 p.m. and 1 a.m. Finally, a unique blend of rock and roll hits from the 60s, 70s, and 80s round out the entertainment. Stay with 97.9 WHAV, the only Haverhill-based news source.
Catch the wave, WHAV.
From the Edwin V. Johnson Newsroom, 97.9 WHAV FM presents Good Sports with Paul Ryan and Tommy Morgan. Good Sports is sponsored in part by Haverhill attorney Gerard LaFlamme. Call 978-374-1900. That's 978-374-1900.
That's the number, 978-374-1900. This is Good Sports here at 97.9 WHAV. I'm Tommy Morgan alongside a good friend of mine, Christian Procaccino, and as always, Dave Morrison on the other side of the glass.
Yep.
Calling the shots. But, we started the show with NFL free agency, moved to a little Bruins, and we were going to go a little free form there, so we did talk a little Players' Championship, which starts up tomorrow, but... Brett gave us a phone call and brought back the Odell Beckham trade. So I don't see why not. We don't finish the show there.
Seems fitting.
So for me, and I could kind of pick up a little bit of what he was talking about, and my whole thing with the Giants, right, is they should have gotten the quarterback last year, right? Because
I think we both agree on that.
When you get the quarterback. Right, in a draft class of quarterbacks that was very highly touted, you now have a direction of where you're going, right? Instead, you go and you get Saquon Barkley, who is going to be a very, very good player in this league for a long time. But you kind of mismanaged the direction of which way the team had to go, right? You have Eli Manning, who should have retired 2 years ago, or who should have been cut by the team 2 years ago. And you try to build around him in a win-now mentality, and it's just not going to happen. Eli's not good anymore. He's not in a position that's going to be able to propel a team like that. So for me, it's like if you go get the quarterback last year, right now you have Odell, a piece that you can put around and show Odell, okay, we're getting you a guy that's going to be able to get you the football. And I think a lot of what maybe drove him out of New York, a lot of what got under people's skin in New York, doesn't happen, right? I think that there was obviously a level of frustration from Odell with the organization, right? I mean, he said it himself, basically called Eli a noodle arm in an interview. The level of frustration was apparent for him, and I think eventually, the front office of that organization just got fed up with it and moved on from him, obviously. So, it all goes back to you mismanaged the direction of the team last year.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with where Odell's coming from and his frustrations, because if you're a guy like Odell who's as talented as Odell, to see the front office just consistently what seems like ignore the most glaring need for that team at quarterback, it's got to be frustrating when you're year in and year out having to deal with Eli, who is not getting better. He's rapidly declining. Ever since Odell has been there, he really just hasn't been this elite quarterback that, a guy like that probably needs and wants. I mean, and to just see them completely ignore draft after draft. I mean, they got this Kyle Lauletta guy, but he's obviously not the one, or else he'd be in there right now. And they had guys like Davis Webb in there who apparently wasn't the one either. So if you're a star receiver and you've mentioned and made it known that you're frustrated with the quarterback situation and that you think there needs to be a change, and to just see the management year after year ignore that, I mean, I think it's fair for a guy like that to be upset and to be pissed.
Yeah. For me, and before Brett cut out, we had talked about the draft last year, and he said if they went and got a quarterback, second overall, call it, Sam Darnold or whoever it may be, he goes, we'd still be in the same position, which, I'm not going to totally disagree with. Maybe they're a 5-win, maybe they're a 6-win team with Sam Darnold in his first year. But my point is like, you've now set the direction of the team.
Exactly.
Right? You've now set the standard that this is the franchise quarterback that you're going to have, and now you're going to work to build the team around him. And now it's like, you've tried to build an offense around Eli Manning, who's just not capable of playing in the NFL anymore. And, I know he's going to say, well, we could have just gotten Dwayne Haskins. Fine, but you've done it a year too late, right? It's like how many more, you know what I mean? Like, okay, so now this year with Dwayne Haskins is going to be a wasted year, right? According to that point, so now you're what, 3 years left on Odell's deal, and you still don't have any remnants of a defense, right? So I mean, like that's the only thing I go back to. Like, you can get a running back anywhere.
And to go back to your point where you said if you get Sam Darnold, you're kind of in the same spot. Well, there's very few players out there that you're going to get, and you're going to become a Super Bowl contender. I mean, the Giants didn't have the pieces, the full components to become a real playoff threat or a Super Bowl contender. So if you're in that situation, it's just, well, we're going to continue to be bad and not win, and not in a win now mode for a few years now. Why don't we get a young guy in here and start, and like you said, build around him, so that in a few years when we're at that build now mode, we have the pieces, they have experience, they have the guys around them that they need to be successful. And now it just seems like they're back to where they started, really. They need a quarterback now, and they need a new number one receiver. I mean, you have a great running back, that's awesome, but right. That great running back isn't going to bring you to where you guys want to go ultimately.
No, and it's a good point that you make. It's like, you can't name me a team where the running back has won you a Super Bowl, right? I mean, you could maybe point to Seattle in 2013, I think it was, or 2012.
They also had Russell Wilson, though. I mean,
to my point is you also had an historic defense.
Yeah.
Right. That was kind of what the team hung their hat on. But other than that, I mean, like, running backs aren't going to get you anywhere, right? Like I said, like we've said all night, you can put anybody in the running back position, and if you got the right team around them, right, they're going to produce. And I go back to James Conner, right? He's a guy who was, put in with limited expectations at best, and look what he was able to do to fill in for Le'Veon Bell. So it's just like, that's such a, I don't even know the word I'm trying to use, but it wasn't a need.
Yeah.
It wasn't a need, and the quarterback was the need for that team. And it's like if you go get Sam Darnold or whoever it may be, right? If maybe he's not the guy, if he's so bad in that first year, right? Then you go and you get a quarterback in the next year, right? Like that is the position that you need to get. I don't care how many times it takes you to try. Look at the Browns, and now look at them.
And like going back to Sam Darnold too. Look at what the Jets did. They went and then say the Giants go and they take Sam Darnold, and the Jets go and they take Saquon Barkley. Well, now the Jets again this year are in the same position. We need to find a quarterback. Compared to where they are now, where we went last year, we got Sam Darnold, and then this year we add the running back and we add the other pieces, and the team's slowly starting to come together, and you can see the direction they're heading.
Absolutely. That's such a good point, because I know, and I do. I feel bad for Brett. It's like you had the guy who you thought was going to be the franchise player for a lot of years, and the team mismanaged, a situation much bigger than just Odell. But I think a lot of the mindset is okay, we have Odell, we have Saquon, we'll go get Dwayne Haskins, and then everything's fixed overnight. And that's just unfortunately not how, it works in the NFL. And I can't help but go back to the Browns. Like, look at how long, that team struggled to get a team to what they have now. I mean, now they're a team that could really be a threat to get out of the AFC and go to the Super Bowl.
The laughing stock. They were the laughing stock. If we remember Bud Light unlocking the chains when they won their first game or whatever, you remember that whole promo?
Yeah.
But yeah, absolutely. Free Bud Light for Cleveland and Northeast Ohio.
And look at where it started, too. It's when Baker Mayfield, the quarterback, came into the game and took over that job, and he really excelled that team to where they are now.
Yeah.
And then this offseason they go and they bring in, Odell Beckham and Kareem Hunt and all those guys, and they build around Baker. They got the guy they wanted, and then they start to build around him, and they add other pieces on the defense, and they go and draft Denzel Ward. And
I was just going to say that. I mean, Dorsey could not have played that draft last year any better. He got Baker Mayfield at 1, and then he goes and gets Denzel Ward, who's going to be an absolute stud too. I mean, what he did last year as a rookie was,
incredible, yeah.
Really, really good. And then, like you said, right now you got the quarterback. You go out, you get Jarvis Landry. Right now he's got somebody you can throw to. You got David Njoku at tight end, young kid.
Drafted a running back in the second round, and Nick Chubb.
Yeah, like that. I can't stress it enough, just because I've seen it. You know what I mean? Like, as a Patriots fan, you've had the quarterback for so long.
Right.
Like, everything else, you're just plugging in at this point. It's like,
I mean, think about how many teams too. I mean, how many fan bases do you know that are always saying, "Oh, if only we had that running back," or "If only we had a running back." It's every team. It's we need a quarterback. We need a quarterback. We don't have a quarterback.
Right.
I don't buy into the cheese, but it's almost kind of like when the Celtics got Kevin Garnett back in 2007 except for the Cleveland Browns. You get OBJ, and now all of a sudden this feeling comes over Northeast Ohio that they haven't had probably since LeBron and the Cleveland Cavs brought home the NBA championship back in 2016. And we make fun, but not for long. Not for long. That's a great organization.
Listen, I mean, Cleveland has every right in the world to be excited about this football team.
Absolutely.
Dorsey has done an exceptional job with that team. They just added Odell to alongside Jarvis Landry.
They brought in Sheldon Richardson this offseason.
Miles
as well.
Garrett off the edge. They brought in Olivier Vernon, Denzel Ward. I mean, that team is loaded with talent. And I'm not sitting here telling you that talent wins in the NFL, because they got a rookie head coach coming in and all that. But it's certainly going to be fun to watch, because they're going to win a lot of football games this year. But that is we are at the top of the hour. And unfortunately, that is going to do it for us tonight. Christian, thanks for coming in again.
Thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Anytime.
Always good to have you on. But that's going to do it for us tonight here at Good Sports. Thank you all for listening, and we'll be back here next week, Wednesday night from 6 to 8 o'clock. And hopefully by that time, the Patriots will maybe have a little bit of a bigger splash in free agency. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Good Sports is back again next Wednesday night at 6. The opinions expressed on Good Sports are not necessarily those of 97.9 WHAV FM, its underwriters, or affiliated stations. Good Sports was sponsored in part by attorney Gerard Laflamme of Haverhill.
It's 8 o'clock.
WHAV LP Haverhill.
WAVE weather.